Next question will be started with David Hill. How will you help balance the budget and decrease our national debt?
Boy, that is a great question. Like Trump, I'm a businessman. I'm not a politician. And I know for sure that we have to have a budget in order to start addressing the incredible runaway deficit spending that we have. You know, every family, every business, they have to match their income and their outgo. But the federal government doesn't, you know, and unless you have a budget, you don't make any choices. All spending is always on the table. So in this time of incredibly high deficits, Nancy Pelosi is recommending $5 trillion to be spent, and all kinds of pork and all kinds of special projects that she wants to be done. But, you know, that's because there's not a budget. First of all, we need a balanced budget amendment. We need to restrict the federal government spending to a percentage of GDP. When we do that, then we can start making decisions about where money is spent. Secondly, we need to look at our income and our outgo, and we have to grow the economy. We have to grow manufacturing. We have to grow the engine of our economy. I've got a lot of experience doing this, providing thousands of jobs and competing with China and competing with Mexico. I know we can do this in America. We can control our spending and we can grow the economy again.
Okay, thank you, David. Next is Janet Barresi.
You know, first of all, I want to remember the legacy of Dr. Tom Coburn and his contribution in focusing on our national debt. He was not called Dr. No for anything. And when he left the Senate in 2015, we were $18 trillion in debt, and now we are $25.6 trillion in debt. What does that mean? Let's get our minds wrapped around that. So let's make an analogy in terms of time. 1 million seconds is equivalent to 11 days. A billion seconds is equivalent to 31 years, but 1 trillion seconds is equivalent to 31,710 years. What does that mean? We're sitting around the kitchen table. We've got a second mortgage on the house. We have a second loan on our car, and we've maxed out our credit cards. There is no more money. We have to fundamentally change our behaviors, and that begins with a balanced budget amendment. We must end deficit spending, and we must reduce our immoral national debt.
Thank you. Next is Michael Ballard.
Yes, another saying that the late great President Reagan said was, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. And that's one of the problems that we have. And you can't just blame the Democrats on the deficit and everything. You know, you got your rhinos that played a huge part in that as well. And the number one function of the United States House of Representatives, their top job they're supposed to do every year is to have a budget. I can't even begin to tell you, if somebody had a gun on me and say, tell me when the last time Congress had a budget, I guess I would just get shot, because I couldn't answer that, because it's been so long. They keep adding things, just postponing it. And every time they don't have a budget, but they just add a 90-day extension here and a 30-day extension there, that just drastically increases our deficit as well as our national debt. And I'm for a balanced budget. Matter of fact, I signed a candidate survey form that came in from the Ballard budget group, and I proudly signed it and posted it on Facebook, because nothing's going to change until we balance our budget. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that every other candidate here has to live within their budget. I know I have to live within my budget, so the government should do the same as well, because it's not their money, it's our money, the taxpayer money. Balance the budget.
All right, thank you, Michael. Next is Miles Rahimi.
Thanks, Joshua. That's a great question. I have a bit of an anecdotal story. While I was in the Navy, one of the collateral jobs I had was supply. And I remember ordering chairs for our department. And these chairs were $80 at Office Depot, but I spent $360 for each chair through one of our government-approved contractors. Knowing that this chair was being paid for with money borrowed from China that would have to be repaid by my children and my future grandchildren, It disgusted me. It feels gross. I know that our budget deficit is huge and our debt is even larger. And I believe in taking what small initial steps I can to lead by example. So as a congressman, all of my furniture in my office in DC and district offices are going to be secondhand. They're going to be from Salvation Army or donated. And every time I'm asked to vote for something that includes new spending, I'm going to ask myself this simple question. Is it worth borrowing this money from China? And if it's not, I'm not going to vote for it.
That's great. Thank you, Miles. Next is Charles Pringle.
Okay, the first thing I would do if I was, am I muted? Well, that keeps coming up. I would, any expenditure that is not in compliance with the Constitution, I would eliminate if I were a congressman. That includes what's the name of the women's, my mind just went blank, that where they want the money for the abortions. And if it's not in the Constitution, we're not going to spend any money for it. And I apologize for losing my thought there, but it's whatever that name of that organization is that does abortions for women. And women don't need that organization to get health care. They can get it anywhere they want to. We've got doctors. If they can't afford it, we've got welfare programs in our state. They don't need, I apologize for losing my thought on that, but we just need to eliminate everything that's not, and I don't want to give any more money away.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Jake Merrick.
To unmute or not, so I just do it in case. I do agree with you, Mr. Pringle. The Planned Parenthood, I believe is what you're referring to, that is essential that we eliminate taxpayer-funded abortions. Obviously, the government is notorious for wasteful spending. A budget is necessary. It's vital. But I believe we can't overlook the Federal Reserve, and it needs to be abolished. We must end the Federal Reserve. So this is high on my priority list. It's a rogue machine that's been in place for a long time, but it's immoral, it's impractical, it's unconstitutional, and it artificially inflates, and it will be a root cause of our financial demise if we allow it to exist.
Okay, thank you, Jake. Last on this question is Shelli Landon.
Well, first of all, I do not go to Washington to make friends. Quite often when I sit down at a black tie affair, I've got every antenna up and my eyes roving in the back of my head, find out who's really my friend, no matter what party they're in. I've been a businesswoman in the arts, publishing, and I've also been the CEO of a nonprofit. I believe we have to eliminate taxpayer abortions and Social Security benefits for any illegal immigrants, period. I also believe that it's long overdue to abolish the Federal Reserve and that will greatly affect the changes in the national debt. I'd also like to see the petro-oil dollar economy that will affect our stock market, unfortunately, be eliminated completely and everything brought back home for the oil industry. I was trained by Hayseed Stevens, who was the founder of Ness Energy and Twin City programs with Israel, drilling 12,000 feet at the base of the Dead Sea. We also have the same kind of tributaries come out of the Salt Lake, geophysical configuration going right down here through Oklahoma. And if we will do deep thermal drilling, we ought to be able to eliminate the illegal liquid natural gas tanker contracts that Mitt Romney and others and Biden put together that had everything to do with the impeachment crisis recently, that has a great interference with our national security in all of our ports where those have been brought in. I was the chief briefing expert for that in Washington, D.C., and for members of the Intel Committee.
Thank you.
We need a balanced budget amendment, and we should not have
So we're going a little
contracts.